Google has a major effort underway to give non-AMP pages the same treatment in Google search as AMP pages, and you need to know about this because it could really speed up the web more generally. Here's why. Hey everybody, Eric Enge here. Pleased to be here today with Google's Ben Morss. He's a developer advocate who works on AMP and PWAs and other things to make the web wonderfully fast and powerful. Thanks for joining us today, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Ben, we've seen some posts out there suggesting that Google is working on ways to bring the benefits of AMP to web pages that aren't coded in AMP. What's up with that?
That's weird, isn't it? Yeah, because, AMP wants to preserve AMP being special, but actually that really isn't true. The folks that make AMP and that invented AMP don't really think you have to use AMP to make things fast. It's just easier to use AMP. So they've thought all along that it's actually better if any pages that kind of follow AMP-like guidelines for speed and reliability and layout stability and so on should get the same treatment in Google search as AMP pages do. And plus, there are those who would complain that AMP is some sort of different version of the web, and AMP is maybe a thing they don't want to use in some cases. It makes total sense. So this has been worked on for quite a while, actually. As you mentioned, there have been a couple of public posts about this. The first one was in March 2018. So as we're filming this now, a year and 9 months ago. This has been ongoing for a little while. And the post was by Malte Ubel, who was the person who created AMP in the first place, the coder who really made AMP what it was. And he said a couple of things. One is that they were working on web standards, so ways to do things on the web that would allow things that were not AMP, the kinds of fast loading experiences that AMP allows. And number two, hoping that this work would allow Google search to apply special features like the AMP carousel, the AMP top stories carousel, to non-AMP pages as well. And maybe more than that. That was all that it said. It was kind of mysterious.
So what's interesting about that, and I know you probably can't comment, but it suggests to me that one of the big payoffs is that those pages would be able to get into Google cache.
I can just say that people here do think that there's various ways to make a fast page. I found in my work with various companies, it's hard to do it. It's hard to make a fast page because people lack the discipline to do it. Someone will add more JavaScript to the page, add more large images. AMP makes it easier to not fall into these traps, but AMP also can be restrictive too. So if you don't have to use AMP at all, if it's an option, it seems a lot nicer than having to use AMP to get these special Google search features.
So there was another post in May of 2019.
There was a follow-up on this because work has been ongoing, and all this feverish work here. People are scurrying around like busy bees, working on all these things. And a lot of progress has been made. Nothing has changed in Google search yet, but I would expect that at some point, sometime in the future, not too long, you may see some things happening in Google search, but search is very secretive, so we can't say what's going to happen. And plus, they're still working on it. But what the post said was that they're working on speed metrics. So ways to actually measure accurately, really, in some way that's identifiable to everybody, how fast the page really loads for a user. And they're considering various different metrics with names like first contentful paint, largest contentful paint, things like that, first input delay. They're also discussing a new thing called layout stability, which I think is now public and available, that will measure the kinds of things like when you load up, when your page is loading up, do things shift around on the page as they load. AMP tries to make sure that things don't move around as they load in. If an image or an ad loads in, that things don't shift around to make room for it. So if things shift around on the page, it frustrates users. They want to measure that kind of thing as well. They're working on various metrics like that. They're working on various ways to do what they call instant loading, which means to make things load very fast from search. And also, interestingly enough, on new ways to navigate from web pages to web pages. So since web began, it's been a thing where you get to a web page, click on a hyperlink, you load a new page, and everything kind of vanishes for a little bit and reappears. What if there are ways that are more smooth to do that? Interesting. So various things like this are being worked on. And much of the work actually on web standards is public, and some things are just kind of search things.
So that's very cool and exciting, this idea that will bring the promise of AMP's level of speed to other kinds of pages. Thanks so much, Ben, for just tidbit of insight into what's going on there. And for those of you watching, if you've enjoyed this episode of Here's Why, please click on the link to subscribe and you can get more of these great episodes.